This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you for being here tonight for the Spartanburg County Public Library's Genealogy series. Tonight, we will be talking about federal land records. This is a new topic for me, and I'm excited to share a little bit about those records and why they can be important to us, even if we're located primarily in South Carolina. But anybody is able to watch this video, participate in the class, and catch the recording on our YouTube channel. The Spartanburg County Public Libraries has a YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel, we have a genealogy playlist. So feel free to check that out for previous genealogy programs in our series, as well as our new series of 15 minutes or less genealogy on the go. My colleague Kristen Bennett just put up one on searching for yearbooks online. It may have been digitized, and so she reviews how to find them. So we're glad that you're here. My name is Charity Rouse. I am the Director of Local History for the Spartanburg County Public Library System, and it is my honor to do the majority of our genealogy programming, because I enjoy doing it, and I'm glad you're here with us. So tonight, let's look a little bit at federal land records. Now, federal land records are important in many parts of the country. They're not something that those of us here in South Carolina deal with particularly often, because South Carolina is not a federal land state. There are two ways that people originally get land in the United States, or what is now the United States. If they are in the original 13 colonies, plus Kentucky, Maine, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, West Virginia, or Hawaii, those are not part of the federal public land states. Those states we research on the state and local level. We talked a lot about that last month in November in the Deeds and Land Records presentation, and feel free to check that out on our YouTube page to get more information about those local records here in South Carolina. And once you figure out how to search many of these records, they're very similar across different states. It's just knowing where to start your search. So what do I mean when I say federal land states? Well, the 30 states that are not those original colonies plus that handful of extra states. So Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Those are considered to be the eastern states in the federal land states. And then the western states are Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Kansas, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. And yes, there is a challenge in reading all of those postal codes. Glad that they're here. Don't have a handout tonight. I see that question there. And yes, we can get the previous month handout. It should be linked to the video on the YouTube page, but we'll double check and make sure that works. So federal land records are different from those original colonies land records, because those original 13 plus the additional handful that are not federal land states, those records are on the colony, the state, or the local level. Federal land states start out as, you would guess, federal land, federal records through federal resources. So if you're in South Carolina, you're probably thinking, why do I need to know about federal land records in these states that don't include South Carolina? Well, as the federal government opened land for Western expansion, you may have ancestors or relatives who moved west or south and west. with the Louisiana Purchase, with each successive Western expansion, with Texas, with New Mexico and Arizona, with California, with Washington and Oregon. If somebody went west on the Oregon Trail, you're going to find these records initially, if they were in that first kind of wave and some later waves of immigration, you will find them. Your ancestors may not be from here. You may have moved to South Carolina, or you may be in a situation like I have in this particular will, 1848. My fourth great grandmother, Amy Pittman, is leaving some property to her children. Now she, in that time frame, she could not own real estate property, but she did have enslaved persons that she was able to control the distribution of their labor to her various children. One of the things that comes into this is that she is leaving a daughter, a Negro man seer in Mississippi, who is in Mississippi with her son Newitt. And then another son, William Pittman, is the administrator of the estate. Now, trying to figure out what all of this, where these people are between South Carolina and Mississippi. In the 1840s, it was very common for larger landowning families to purchase land in Mississippi, Alabama, and into Louisiana to expand farming, as South Carolina land was being depleted of nutrients and that kind of thing. And so you will often see ties between those deeper South states and South Carolina. So either siblings moved or there was land being held in both states. So this is actually a topic that is quite interesting. And it's, so I did some research this summer. I was taking a class on research in Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. And so I was looking at these deeper South people, and I took as a jumping off spot this particular will and tried to find Newitt Pittman in Mississippi. So, where is primary place to look for the Bureau of Land Management for these federal land records? There are some that will show up on Ancestry. Some of the indexing shows up on Ancestry, but this is the primary place. So GLO records.blm.gov. So General Land Office records Bureau of Land Management.gov. And the things that this website has include image access to more than 5 million federal land title records issued between 1788 and the present, many of which are before 1908, but some of which are later, because some of our later states did not come into the Union until after that time frame. They also have images of survey plats, field notes, land status records, and control document index records. Now, they do not currently have every federal title record issued for the public land states, but they continue to add information regularly to this site. Now, when most of us think federal documents, we think, oh, the National Archives and Records Administration. Yes, the National Archives and Records Administration is a great place, but they don't have these Bureau of Land Management records, because these, like other deed records, are considered to be current and legacy records. So as you're doing title searches, you need these available. So many of these records are in sub-offices of the Bureau of Land Management, not in the National Archives, although I'm sure there are some backup copies of many of them. So what does this website look like? Well, the U.S. Department of the Interior has the Bureau of Land Management website under its umbrella, and this is the General Land Office records. And you'll see this little note up here that it's part of the National System of Public Lands. And it's a .gov, and so that means you are on the official governmental records or governmental site. So just some things to look for. So one of the things you'll find on this site are the land patents, the federal land patents, which we will look at some examples here in a second. You will find the survey plats and field notes. You will find land status records, and this is just for the Western state offices, so those Western, approximately 15 states. And then you will also find control document index records, but that's basically internal records of the Bureau of Land Management. Tract books from the Eastern state offices, which is an earlier basic index. And then a land catalog that you can search by geography rather than necessarily by a name. So let's look at some of these various things. So the federal land patent offers researchers a source of information on the initial transfer of land titles from the federal government to individuals. Again, this is happening as the government is buying large chunks of the western parts of the United States. And when I say western parts, I mean those western parts that are west of the original 13 colonies, with Ohio and Kentucky and Tennessee and West Virginia kind of thrown in with the eastern original colonies. So you will find information about an individual who might be a patentee, who is the person who is receiving that patent or deed, the assignee, someone who they are selling it to or assigning it to manage, warranty, widow, or heir. And then there is a legal land description involved with all of these and an issue date. And so there are various types of entries, including a cash entry where someone is purchasing this for cash, a homestead entry where someone is claiming a homestead under a specific act of the government, and then military warrant patents, which is part of bounty land service. So on their site, I clicked on the land patent search, and you get a drop down of the states that they have in their system. And again, they've got a lot of the information. Not everything is in here yet, but they're getting there. And then counties within that, you can search by a last name, a first name. You can search just for the patentees or just for the warranties. You can search by land description or a specific land office. If you have a story like in Laura Ingalls Wilder about her father doing the homestead in Indian Territory, you will have a land office that you know that he went to. So you might be able to track something down that way. So I searched originally for Newitt Pittman, couldn't find him, couple spellings of Pittman. This, you do need to check spellings on this. This is not a fuzzy search. This is a, if you spell it P-I-T-T-M-A-N, then it will only give you P-I-T-T-M-A-N. It will not give you P-I-T-M-A-N or P-I-T-M-O-N or P-I-T-T-M-O-N. So you do have to do some duplicate searching. On this list of William Pittmans, And you can also search just by Pittman, and it will give you all of the first names associated with that last name as well. I truncated it so it would be easier for a screenshot. You can get an image. You have the accession number, which is the purchase number. You have the name of the person. You have the date that this is happening. So 2 of these were purchased by William Pittman 1841 on the 27th of February. 1 was purchased by William Pittman on September 26th of 1890. 1 was purchased June 28th, 1899. And then William R. Pittman purchased a property in 1892 and a William W. in 1895. It is unlikely that this first William Pittman in 1841 is the same one in these later 1890s, but it could be. I don't know. Haven't done enough research. We have a document number here, and these are all in Mississippi because that's what I limited it to, because I was searching for these Pittmans in Mississippi to see if I can try to track down this family. You'll see Meridian, which tells you which office that is in, which territory that was from, and then a township and a range. In these federal land states, it is customary to have square township sections and ranges. Some of the states are a lot flatter than others. Kansas is pretty flat, and the primary interruptions in Kansas are you get rivers interrupting those north, south, east, west lines. The aliquots, that's the subsection within the township and range. You get the section number, and then you get the county. And do remember that county lines do change over time, so you're going to want to check for maps that would be at the time of the document and of the purchase. So we're going to look at 2 of these. We're going to look at this 0.193, and then in a few minutes we'll look at 0.401. So the 0.193, when you click on that number, so I clicked on this 0.195 accession number, and it took me to this page. And then I'm just going to zoom in on the top and the bottom of that page because it's easier to read that way. So on this, you've got the accession number, document type, so it's a state volume patent for the state of Mississippi, and this was one of the 2 issued on the 27th of February, 1841. It has not been canceled. Federal land is similar to the Crown grants in the colonies, that there were requirements for what you needed to do on this land. So it varies in time period, and it varies in this various states and territories, various laws allowing the land in these places give you specifics of what the necessary thing was, but typically you had to clear a certain number of acres of land, you had to build a dwelling, and you had to reside on that property for 2 out of 5 years or whatever the various acts said. So that's just one of those things that you've got to look at the specific place a little bit more closely. So this is more general across 30 states, or what is now 30 states. So you may have to look back and see, okay, now what does that mean location-wise, etc. This land office was in Columbus, Mississippi. It was not a U.S. reservation. No mineral rights on this. It was not tribal or militia. This land in 1841 was being purchased under the authority of the act passed April 24th, 1820, which allowed for cash sales of land, and then the statute number. You find a document number here, and then Bureau of Land Management serial number there. And there are some searches that you can do with those when you get more advanced. It's not an Indian allotment number. Those types of things are also noted here. It is 40 acres, 40.1 acres, and they do not have the meets and bounds listed. However, if you scroll to the bottom, and I did have to click the little map box to say I wanted to see this, it shows that in the state of Mississippi, Choctaw Meridian, 22 North, 8 East, Township and Range, the aliquots of South 1/2, West 1/2, Southeast 1/4, and the section is number 17 in Calhoun County. It doesn't map the aliquots of this particular land designation, but sometimes it will. So play around with it, explore. You can't break it, just saying. But it does give you what the township and the section is here, the smaller box, and the township is the larger box. And you do see it in relation to some of the other locations in the county, so you can really get an idea along with the waterways as to where you are in that particular part of the country. Because before I started working with any of this, I knew very little about Mississippi. So that was in the patent details. You can click on the tab that has patent image, and it will actually give you the image of the patent. And so you see here William Pittman of Mississippi, office at Columbus, and this gives the text description of the land under the act in April 1820. And you scroll down the page and you see that this was given under the authority of Martin Van Buren, who was president at the time in 1841. Now, sometimes they do cut off the bottoms of the scans, so sometimes you are going to have to look for additional information. So you can also click on related documents, and you will see other people who may be associated. These may be the neighbors. These are other people who got land in that county, in that section, around the same time. So I'm looking through this list and I see William Pittman. Okay. I'm looking at this, I see an Ephraim Pittman and a Mortimer Pittman. Now, none of those names are ones that are in the document, the will that I'm looking at, but William is a very common first name, and there are more Pittmans out there than you would think. So it gives me a chance to look for more clues as I'm researching to see if this is my William Pittman or not my William Pittman. I would also want to be checking if there is a William Pittman in the Marion district in the 1840 and 1850 censuses. 1850, we do find a number of William Pittmans in the Mississippi censuses, and more in 1860. I do find a Newitt Pittman in the federal census for Mississippi in 1850 and 1860. So they could be related. They could be not related, but this gives us more clues to research. On the related documents, you can also click on the survey tab, And you can see the original survey was done in 1834. This land is being purchased in 1841. So this was not always a short journey from the land being part of the federal system to someone claiming that land. You know, the Louisiana Purchase took a long time to finalize. And you can see the township and range, and then you can see there are two different surveys that were done for this. Now, I did have trouble loading those maps and getting an image to show you guys, so I would just recommend going in, picking a name, searching for it, or picking a location and taking a look at it and see what you can find. So back to the original list of results, we've got 0.401 here for William Pittman, and this is in 1890. Again, this may or may not be the same William Pittman, but this, and it's in Montgomery County, which is a different location, but people did move around as better land was found. Sometimes they were claiming land that they didn't know whether that was the good land, the bad land, or a bunch of rocks. So sometimes people did buy and sell within the state as they were getting settled or purchase more land along the way. But this 1890 purchase is actually under the 1862 Homestead Entry Act. And so you get a little bit different information here. It was in the Jackson Land Office, and it's a homestead entry, which is a different subqualification for how you could get land. And again, you see the homestead entry is there, and you see the description, and you do get the aliquots there, that it's this part of this section of, or of this, yeah, section of the township and range in Montgomery County. And when I click on the patent image for that, this patent looks different because it's under a different program. So this is a Homestead Act, and so application 12977 and General Land Office in Jackson, Mississippi, and it is William Pittman. And if you go down, you will see that this was done under the authority of President Benjamin Harrison. So different presidents' names are going to be on here, which is kind of cool to remember to place your people in a different time and era and within the greater context of the history around them. And over here on the left, it does tell you the manuscript, the Mississippi, the volume 241, page 401, so you can have the citation. Okay, the survey plats and field notes. These are narratives about the original surveys of the land. Can't quite, oh, I was searching in Montgomery County around the related documents to the 0.401. I got my slide out of order, I'm sorry. But the survey, and this, so this is the hand-drawn survey and charted that you can look at. So I know Ron is interested in maps. There's some really great maps in this. So in the land status section, they only had a few states in this, more in the Western Territory than the Eastern. So since I used to live in Topeka, Kansas, I picked Shawnee County, Kansas. And I was like, okay, let me search this. And so you get a status plat, you get the historical index page, master title plat, etc. And these are off the 6th prime meridian in Kansas, and it does tell you the township range. County lines don't always run quite on the meridians, and so sometimes you get things where its parts are in multiple counties. Kansas, it's really square. They platted this sucker out. Now you do see a river down here at the bottom, and that is interrupting their square plats. That really frustrates them because the roads, generally speaking, run on the major section lines. So this particular plat is showing this property. And you can get a list of all the places. I could not get it to come out less than blurry. So I would recommend playing around with that too. Tract books used in the Eastern offices, state offices. This is what you get when you do a search. I just searched for Choctaw County, Alabama, because again, there are very few states in this collection as of yet. They are continuing to build this collection. And so I clicked on, I think 23, yep, volume 11, number 23, and you can see they've had to do some conservation and preservation on this document. It is encased and protected because the paper is dying very quickly. But you can get lists of the various people who own in that particular chunk. And these are the handwritten ones that are searching can be more precise with the online ones now. And then the final part of their website has to do with the land catalog. And you can see the states that are involved in the federal land from Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, up into Ohio and Michigan and all the way across. Texas just does its own thing, which is why it's grouped with the main colonies or the Eastern Seaboard colonies. Kentucky and Tennessee were settled relatively early on in this and typically functioned as western portions of Virginia for, well, West Virginia was, and Kentucky was, a lot of that was part of Virginia records, and then Tennessee in the early period functioned as a western part of North Carolina. So that's why those are lumped in with the Eastern as well. But these Western land states can be, Western federal land states can be very interesting to look at. There was a comment about the genealogy research, the homestead and military warrant records, that you can find those numbers when you're going into the patent. Sorry, got to get back to that particular page. If you're looking at these and you get into the document and you realize that it is a military warrant, if it says in one of these sections, it's an Indian allotment number, those may be in the Bureau of Indian Affairs records, but if it's militia record or tribal record, and then if it's the military warrant for land, there are more records related to that in other record sets. The federal government is a very large organization, and so they will have records under different locations. And so the National Archives does have these auxiliary records. Just the Bureau of Land Management has the land piece of it. So as you're researching, you may find information here that makes you want to go to those other records. So that is a great reminder. It will be in the authority field. Thank you. The authority, okay, yes, it will be cash. This one is the sale cash. The other one was the homestead military warrant. And it will tell you which act, and you can look that up in the federal statutes. Make sure you're looking at the correct year within that. And it will tell you exactly what is covered by that particular statute. This is not some of these things are not the first thing you're ever going to want to do in genealogy, but as you get further into the research and need to look at more records and more information, it is definitely a great place to expand your searching, because getting to know where that military bounty land or the military warrant land is can tell you why people moved, or that they sold that or assigned that warrant or bounty to someone else who then claimed it in the Western state. And your person may have earned that land, but they stayed in Virginia or South Carolina. So thank you for that. And let's see, let's get all the way back to the end. Are there other questions? Oops, well. And okay, yes, some of the military bounty particularly is on fold 3, and I forgot to check it for more of the other any of the other records, but the bounty land records indexes are on fold 3, which you can access from home with your library card from our website. Also, Ancestry Library Edition has extended their home access of the library edition through the library with your library card through the end of March. So feel free to take a look at that. The cash entry, it doesn't give the amount of the property that I have seen, but it may depend on the various acts, and it would be a set sum in many cases. So it would be 40 acres would be X amount, or 80 acres. And often it was in blocks of land, if I understand correctly. So that can be helpful. This video and other videos in the series are on the Spartanburg County Public Library's YouTube page, and look for the genealogy playlist. There is also a local history playlist that has some of our other local history programming on it. The genealogy videos will be up for however long they stay up. We have no intention of taking them down. Some of the other local history events, the Chautauqua events, are limited in their scope, how long we can post those. Feel free to contact our Kennedy Room staff at the main headquarters library, and we'll be glad to answer. If you stump them, they'll kick it to me, but we enjoy helping patrons with research. Thank you for coming. I'm going to shut the recording off now.